Okay. I want to do this one for a while, or no, for a few days now. I just haven't had the time, and I wanted to write some notes down, which are over here. But okay. So right now, you probably all have seen. A lot of you have probably seen that Elaine has done. Elaine Brotherhoff, which is the lead attorney for Amber Heard's team, has done a number of interviews. A couple of interviews the next day after the verdict. Um, I'm annoyed with what she's saying in the interviews. It almost looks like she's tone deaf of what actually happened in the last 6 weeks of trial or the last few years. I mean, she's been her attorney. I think she was her attorney in the UK case as well, which I don't actually understand why she was the attorney there when Amber was a witness. Whatever, like it wasn't even Amber's case. She was a witness, a third party. Besides the point, she was probably there for legal reasons I don't know about because I'm not a lawyer or part of any sort of legal team. But so she does a couple of interviews. I think one's on the Today Show, the other one's on CBS. I believe CBS for sure. The Today Show, double check. But so I'm going to show you a clip or show you the interview. It's 6.5 minutes long. You've probably already seen it already, so you can always fast forward. But I have some notes. I'm just irritated. I was going over it a couple of times, just kind of thinking about things. I'm like, what? But it's again, like it feels for me as an observer, as someone who's watched the trial, who's seen the evidence come in, who has, yes, I am swayed by social media, what I already know about Johnny, what I've already seen and understood about Amber before the trial, and then obviously like what everyone sees throughout this trial in general, and I like the way she presents herself and the evidence that came in or didn't come in, or just her demeanor and his demeanor and the legal teams and all this kind of stuff, and it was just like you can see it. And Elaine, I'll play the video and then I'll talk about it after.
Virginia jury's decision to side with Johnny Depp in his defamation lawsuit is drawing both condemnation and praise. The verdict came after 6 weeks of very dramatic testimony from both sides. She claimed that he abused her, while he said she was the abuser. In his reaction, Depp wrote, "The goal of bringing the case was to reveal the truth, and that truth never perishes." Elaine Brotherhoff is the attorney for Amber Heard and is with us now. And we should mention, we did also reach out to Johnny Depp's team, but they declined to be interviewed this morning. Elaine, thank you. We're so very glad you're here.
Thank you.
We heard Amber's reaction to the verdict yesterday. This seems to be a huge victory for Johnny Depp this morning.
A major setback for women. For women inside the courtroom and outside the courtroom.
Because
basically what this said, Amber had an enormous amount of evidence, although a lot of it was suppressed in this case as opposed to the UK. But look at all the women who have no evidence. All these women who suffer from domestic violence, domestic abuse, they don't have evidence. And basically what this jury said is unless you pull out your cell phone and you tape record your spouse beating you, you're out of luck.
But Elaine, I think it was bigger than that because you have the evidence, as you say, but they did not believe her. Why do you think they did not believe her?
I think that a lot of that was that it was Johnny Depp. I think the celebrity status.
But she's a celebrity too.
And it's not only not believing her.
But she's a celebrity too.
Right.
But you have to remember, it's a tale of two trials. All the evidence came in the UK. Mr. Depp brought that one. The burden of proof was on the son in the UK because they had called him a wife beater and talked about the domestic violence. He had his opportunity to tell the truth then. And a 3-week trial, he lost. The judge found 12 acts of domestic violence, including sexual violence. And that came out November 2, 2020. We weren't allowed to tell the jury that.
Well, it's a different system, and the judge, it wasn't a jury, it was a judge. The judge said it was substantially true, and that is significant, and I think surprised a lot of legal analysts. But, in this case, the jury not only didn't believe Amber Heard, but in ruling that she acted with actual malice, that means she had the intent to cause harm, right? That's a pretty high standard to have proven.
And it's pretty amazing since the op-ed never even mentioned Mr. Depp. You have to remember that. What they learned from the UK case is to demonize Amber, which is what they did, and to try to suppress as much of the evidence that came in the UK and did not come in the United States. But the other problem is we had cameras in the courtroom. So here we had, not only did we have a group of Depp fans that were there every day, 100 were allowed in. They lined up at 1 o'clock in the morning for their wristbands to be in that courtroom. But we had everything on camera, and we had tremendous social media that was very, very, very much against Amber.
It was pointed out that that was the first time that a victim of sexual abuse had to testify on live television.
And I fought hard and lost that battle.
So,
It should not have happened.
So I am a former NFL player, and after a hard loss, it's easy to wake up and point to the other side. Oftentimes, I realized the better thing to do was to look in the mirror. What mistakes did I make as a player? What mistakes did our coaching staff make? And then how can we improve from there? Do you feel like you guys made any mistakes along the way? Do you feel like Amber made a mistake while she was on the stand? Because you're saying it's the celebrity, it's Johnny, it's the people who support him. But what about you and your team?
Well, and that's an excellent question. And to say, and you know, Amber even said on the stand, I am not perfect. I am a human being. These people were giving her death threats. They threatened to microwave her baby. This is the kind of social media she was getting. So are any of us perfect? No. Is there something else we feel we should have done? Yes, absolutely. I redo my closings 100 times afterwards, whether I win or lose. That's part of being a good lawyer, a good trial lawyer, is there's always something. But I think that there were a lot of influences here that were beyond our control. And I think the social media, it was like a Roman Colosseum. Is the best way to describe the atmosphere here. And I have to believe that the jury, even though they're told not to go and look at anything, we had, you know, they have weekends, they have families, they have
they were not
media.
sequestered. They were not sequestered.
And the 10-day period we had, how could they not have been influenced?
But Elaine, for most people watching this trial, and a lot of people, as you know, it got huge views. It just seemed to be so messy and salacious and so tawdry on both sides. And I think for a lot of people from the outside looking in thought both of them were not telling the truth, and that they mutually abused each other. Do you not believe that that was the case?
No, and that's one of the many misnomers. The way that Depp's team approached this was based on ignorance of domestic violence. It completely ignored the cycle of violence and just said, oh, she wouldn't have done this if he had been hitting her. That was their approach.
So you thought that they weren't fighting fair?
Correct. I don't think they were fighting fair.
And you think Amber Heard is, in fact, a survivor of domestic violence?
Yes, I absolutely believe that. And there's a tremendous amount of evidence, much of which did not come into this trial, did come into the UK trial. We even had more evidence. We had medical records. We had mental health records that went back to 2012 that were contemporaneous. We had text messages from Mr. Depp's assistant saying, when I told him that he had kicked you, he cried.
So how is she today, Elaine? How is she today? What is her next move?
She's well. Her next move is appeal. There were
But
a number.
She's heartbroken.
She is heartbroken. And one of the first things that she said when she came back from the verdict, when we went into the conference room, was, "I am so sorry to all these women."
She said that?
Yes. She felt like she had let down all of these women, because she had more, that they still didn't believe her.
Elaine Charleston, Bretta Hoff, thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, enough of that shit. I wanted to talk while that interview was going on, but I said whatever. Okay. I have notes. Are they linear? No, but they are as I've gone over that video over and over and over again. And the other interview is shorter. And I honestly, I feel bad for not knowing her name. I should know her name. But anyways, when she was on the Today Show, I believe it was Today Show, she said pretty much the exact same thing. Not verbatim. I don't know if it's verbatim, but pretty darn close. Like it's almost like it was scripted. Like she was sent by her master to say those things. That may sound cruel the way I'm saying it. I'm just so tired of it. I'm just like, what? As I'm sure many people are. All right, so for a major setback for women, no. The only major setback for women is Amber. That's the only setback. Amber was taken very seriously. Like, this whole case was taken very seriously. From what I've seen, from what I've understood, from the UK case to now, there's been 2 trials on a similar subject matter. Not all the same evidence, but the similar subject matter. It was taken very seriously. So seriously, in fact, that I was going to say Amber, but the UK sided with Amber instead of Johnny. That's how serious it was. Although I think that it was kind of sketchy how they came to that, but it was just a judge versus jury, so I'm just going to forget about that. But no, this was taken seriously, and it wasn't a setback for women. And it wasn't a setback for women in regards to like the lack of evidence. It was a setback because there were lies said on the stand. A woman sat on the coattails of the Me Too movement and used that to propel her own career forward and lied about being hurt. I'm trying to not screw up the algorithm of YouTube here. Hurt by her partner. You don't need an abundance of evidence. Your story is just enough. Except you have to be believable. Right? Like, you can't just say, oh, this happened to me. It's like, okay, well, you don't have anything to back it up. But it's not just evidence. It's like, it's the way you talk. It's your demeanor. It's the way you present yourself. It's the way you present the story. It's, you don't need a bunch of evidence for people to believe you. But your demeanor has to show that you are believable. And quite frankly, this chick she was not believable. That's just how it went. It had nothing to do with the evidence or lack thereof, Elaine. Okay? It was your client. So are you that tone deaf that you were not paying attention to the fact that she was impeached like a million times? So maybe not a lot, but a lot of freaking times when she was cross-examined. Did you not understand that? That's why you were trying to object. That's why it was just, it was in front of the world she was impeached. It was in front of the jury she was impeached, and the jury could see that. And no, I'm not looking at my notes. I should look at my notes. I'm trying to keep myself calm. Okay, the mountain of evidence. Yes, the judge excluded, and again, I'm just going by what I've learned from being part of commentary and things like that. But the mountain of evidence, which everyone has learned about, understood while watching, was not there. The evidence that you did show and how snarky she was when she was being cross-examined, and she's like, I would like to show it to you. I would like to show it to you. It's not my job. It's like, okay, well, she just your client threw you under the bus by saying you didn't know how to do your job. Were you there for that moment? She threw you under the bus. Okay? And not only that, your expert witnesses were a joke. Maybe not all of them. Some of them definitely had great, impressive resumes, but the expert witnesses, sorry, Depp's team outranked you on that. Like, you failed on that. That was a low bar for you. What I understand about that evidence that wasn't allowed in is that it was either inadmissible or a shit ton of hearsay. So that couldn't come in. And I'm sure that if the verdict was on your side, or like, yeah, it came up on your side, like, would you have the same opinions? I mean, it's like, it's just, if you had this same information, same evidence, same whatever, and the jury came on your side, you wouldn't say anything. You'd be like, oh, we had all the evidence we needed. We had this, we had that. And like, she was just perfect on the stand. And then, like, you would be praising. And then all of a sudden, like, you get a bad loss. And it's like, oh, it's so-and-so's problem. It's like, you know, Amber did her best. We didn't have this. We didn't have that. It's like, oh my God, shut up. Anyway, sorry. I want to be a little more professional here. But yeah, it's not about the evidence or lack thereof. It has nothing to do, yes, the verdict has something to do with the evidence, but the fact that your client just wasn't likable. She was not likable from the time she sat on the stand. Not likable at all. Like, you could smell it. You can feel it. Like, you could, and the way she kept looking at the jury, like, were you not present for that? Okay? Your client was not likable. And she lied all the time. She was confrontational. She was combative. She was snarky. She was smug. It was just, it was just gross. It was actually gross. Okay? And you say that, like the evidence in the UK wasn't allowed to be brought in. Well, from my understanding, that was a judicial decision. Like you can't bring that kind of shit, and you can't bring evidence like that from the UK from another case. It was a judicial decision. From what I understand, like you can't bring case information like that. Although I know that there is some evidence from the UK, or at least, or there was discussion the UK case getting brought up. It just had nothing to do. One had nothing to do with the other. This is a completely. These are two different parties. Yes, similar information. Two different parties, two different cases. So it's not. It's not the tale of two trials, which is what you say, right? And not believing Amber because of Johnny. What the fuck does Johnny have anything to do about it? Johnny said his truth. Johnny was likable. He was believable. He was consistent. He had a better team, a stronger team. Like, they worked together. Your team were not working together. Your client was not controlled. And she was also not well coached on how to, like, she was just going off the rails. You couldn't even rein her in. Like, she was uncontrollable. That was your client. Johnny, yeah, he went off script just a little bit, but he was still consistent in his demeanor. He was consistent in his story. He was charming. He was funny. He was relatable, which is Amber was not. Okay, nothing to do with that. Plus, his evidence, oh my God, just like trumped yours tenfold. Like his evidence was just a clear-cut sign to victory anyway. Okay, so I don't know what the hell you were talking about. The evidence that he wasn't able to get in the UK. And that he was able to actually talk about his story and a little bit more, like actually, like do his narrative, when he was basically muted at the UK trial. He said there's hundreds of Depp fans out there. Okay, well he didn't hire them. There's reasons that there's Depp fans out there because they believe Johnny. And it's not his fault that no one liked Amber. And I'm not saying no one. I'm sure there's one or two people or a few people out there, but the majority of them are Depp fans. Yeah, because he has the rapport with the public. Amber does not. And it wasn't Johnny's fault. Again, he didn't hire them. They came on their own volition. That's not anyone else's fault. That's not anyone's fault. That's just how it happened. Your client is not popular, okay? That's just how it goes. So stop blaming the other side for that. Let's see. She was asked the question by the ex-NFL player. Again, I am bad. I did not get the names of everybody on there. I apologize. But the ex-NFL player asked, or like said his story, which is great. But like when you have a bad loss or a big loss, which I thought was really cool that he mentioned big loss, because it is a big loss for a fan. It's a big loss. Like, Elaine, you did the best you could with the client that you had. Okay, you honestly did. Like that's what I see. Like you did do your best. Like it's a hard client. That's fine, but you have to be able to be a good winner, or good winner and a good loser, like you do. So he says, when I have a bad loss, it's easy for me to point to the other side in the morning. How is it that like how could the players have done better? How could the coaches done better? Like for my team, like how could we have done better? You did not answer that question. You sidelined that like it was your job to make sure you didn't answer that question, because you didn't take any responsibility for how you handled your client. You took no responsibility for how that verdict came out. You had no responsibility. You took no responsibility for the bad evidence, for the lack thereof for evidence, the lack of control you had on your client, the objections you couldn't get through, the expert witnesses you didn't not to be able to vet, the fact that it was apparent that you coached your client during that judicial break. Like that was evident. Like her whole demeanor, not her whole demeanor, but the way she testified was completely different in the second round of direct. So it was, yeah. And when you're talking about like reflecting on yourself, and you said, oh, Amber said, I'm not perfect. It's like, yeah, that's not the answer to the question. What did you do wrong? Well, we could have been prepared. We could have done this. We could have done that. No. It was social media. That was the problem. Social media was the problem. No, honey, the client is the problem. The client is the problem. She's not likable, okay? She's not likable. That's just how it is. She was aggressive. She was rude. She was calculating. And everyone, I don't know if you heard this when she was testifying, everyone was lying except for her. Everyone was wrong except for her. including her own witnesses. Like, it's almost like she created her own reality. And when you're talking about Johnny Depp and his truth, he's talking about his truth. No, there's only the truth. It's not his truth or her truth. It's the truth. Okay? It's the truth. So, and Johnny told the truth of what happened. Not his truth, and she was telling her truth, not the truth. Okay? And not that, you insulted the jury and the judge. That the judge failed because it couldn't get this in, couldn't get that in. They let this in, they let that. They let in evidence that benefited their case. They didn't let our evidence in that could have benefited our case. Well, why don't you learn how to? I'm not saying. Okay, you know what? That's rude. I shouldn't be saying this. You know what? From what I understand, you work with the evidence that you have and you make the best case from it. And you don't bitch when you lose. Then you reflect and be like, hey, how could I have done that better? That's how you answer the question. Okay? But you're saying that because they weren't like the jury wasn't sequestered, that they had to look on social media. They had to people had to have told them. You can't just actually believe and have faith in the jury of your peers, like that the system is actually doing right. And when they drive out of that place, they probably did see the crowd of people screaming Johnny, 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 Johnny. They probably did see them. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Who cares? But they were told not to let social media or research or whatever and let that decision or let whatever they hear to sway their decision. And not only that, your client, and you did too, invited social media into the conversation. And you let your client say, look me up, you'll see, blah, 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 or whatever the hell she said. But she looked at the jury and told them to look her up, knowing full well they weren't allowed to. Maybe you could have objected to that, or you could have been like strike that from the record, or you could whatever. You could have been like, why did you say that? All that kind of shit. So yeah, there's part of that. But no, like talking about your jury like that, that's a hard stop. Like, come on, like you need to have a little bit more faith. Just because you lost doesn't mean the jury sucks. The jury was given. I don't. No one knows what happened in that jury room. But you can't assume just because you lost, because they became in favor of Johnny, that they were swayed by social media. They were in that room. They were in the room. They saw everything. They saw the evidence. They saw more evidence and more audio. I heard more audio and saw more video than the public did. From what I understand, they got all of the audio. So they heard everything. And they still went in favor of Johnny. That had nothing to do with social media. Could be a little bit more, accepting of that. Be like, okay, appeal? Fine, that's your legal right. Absolutely, go appeal. But don't slander the other team. And the fact that you're saying that the Depp team had ignorance of DV, and they weren't fighting fair because you lost, or they used the evidence that they had and made the better arguments, and they had the better witnesses to corroborate those, it just seems like your strategy just wasn't great. Like, maybe you could say that, because they did have an idea of DV, and they were able to discuss it and make arguments for it. And not only that, they were arguing for a male being injured by a female. Okay? Yours is just the other way around. Not everyone needs to believe women. Everyone should be innocent until proven guilty, for sure. I believe that. I believe in due process. I believe that. But I don't think that it's fair to say that they didn't understand that system, because I don't think you did either, if you're going to say that. They did a really good job at representing their client. They did a really good job at putting the evidence and making a story with it. They were able to put things in line, saying, oh, she had all of these mental health records and text messages and blah, 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 blah. Okay, mental health records, fine, mental health records, but it's all evidence, it's all information that she told her therapist or therapists. Information she told, nothing that they actually physically saw, right? Not medical records, it's her therapist records. Okay. And then again, text, all hearsay. It's not like triple or quadruple hearsay. He said, she said, that happened, blah, 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 blah. Like, it was just like a bunch of hearsay. Okay. It's just, the fact that you keep blaming Team Depp is really annoying. Like, every time you lose a case, do you blame the other side, or is it like, do you like to actually take responsibility for how you lost a case? I don't know how many cases you've won or lost or whatever. Like, I'm sure you're a wonderful lawyer. I really do. Otherwise, Amber wouldn't have hired you. But it just seems like losing sucks. I know losing sucks, but the thing is, you can't blame the other side for you losing. Just pick up your, like, tie up your bootstraps and walk off and get it better the next time. I mean, she says that she wants to move on with her life. She wants Johnny to move on with her life too. Well, you know what? She ain't moving on. She's not moving on. It's just, I'm just lost at where you're trying to go with this, or where she's trying to go with this. I understand, like, there's more interviews coming. I guess there was another interview today or yesterday, that she kind of corrected some of the things that she said. I was just like frustrated. Like, these are my notes. Like, that's kind of what I said. And it said, oh yeah, no mention of Johnny Depp in the op-ed. She admitted to writing it about him in her testimony. Were you not there in the room? She admitted to writing it about him, and not just about him, about what happened to her afterwards, and then about his power, and that's what I was writing about, to that phenomenon. About like, we should have really just thrown your freaking hat in the air, like, just to be like, I'm done, or put your white flag and be like, I surrender. Like, it's, the entire world knew that she wrote that about him. The entire world, before this trial, everyone knew about it. Why? Because of the timeline, and this was already discussed, and this is like whatever. Like, you already know about this, but I'm not talking to you, Elaine. I'm just talking like in general. Like, everyone knows that op-ed was written about him, and how could we not understand that? I mean, and she doesn't. You say, oh, we didn't want this trial public. It's like, well, she freaking made it public when she did the TRO. And I'm sorry, but why wouldn't you just cover yourself up if you did not want, like, if you didn't want the paparazzi there, and you're saying, oh, well, I didn't tip them off. It's like, yes, because paparazzi just hanging at the courthouse waiting for a celebrity to come through, right? Like, that's just how that works. From what I understand, paparazzi don't hang out at the courthouse unless they're tipped off. And she said that Johnny tipped him off. Johnny was out of town on a European tour, was he not? Which is why the whole point of the TRO made no sense, because he wasn't even going to be around for a few months. But as soon as she filed that TRO and she was public with that, she just went public with SA. So what the hell difference does it make now? And didn't she throw the first punch when she already filed a defamation suit against him before he sued her? Like, so it's just, I just think, I understand that you want to believe your client, you want to stand up for your client, I really do that. I don't like it it's just like so ridiculous. Like, it's not about the evidence, it's about the way your client presented herself. That's it, the way your client presented herself. And she did a really shitty job. Really shitty job. And it really sucks because I understand it's hard to, in any job, it's hard to do your job when you don't have the good resources to do your job. I get that, and I feel bad for those who, like, I always feel bad for that. But it's just, you can't go around blaming everyone else for your client's fuck up. I'm sorry, like, that's just how that works. But yeah, like, we just didn't believe her. The jury didn't believe her. It wasn't about the evidence or lack thereof. So just take that with a grain of salt. And the fact that she even said the grade of addict salt really pissed me off. I was like, that's just horrible. Johnny told his truth. He stood up and he bared all. He had nothing else to lose. He bared all. He stood up and he said everything he needed to say. And it was embarrassing and probably really lonely and scary and upsetting. And all she did was mock him. And, like, didn't you hear the tapes? Like, and you're saying that it wasn't mutually toxic? You actually said that in an interview. It wasn't mutually toxic? Is she kidding? No. I'm sorry, were you not there for the tapes? Or did you not hear all the audio? Did you not hear her calling him a baby and taunting him and telling him that, oh yeah, I'm sorry I didn't fucking hit you like this, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I didn't fucking hit you, but I didn't fucking punch you. I was hitting you. Well, like, hello? That's not mutually toxic? Whatever. seriously, whatever. If you don't, if you want to admit that your girl is some sort of angel, you go right ahead. She is not. She's like the devil in disguise. It's really kind of crazy and gross, and I pray for her daughter. I just want her to take care of her kid and focus on her life, taking care of her kid. I really do. Like, I hope she gets better. I hope she finds help. That is it. But good luck. This is not going to last. This is not. That's all I have to say about that. I can't. I'm just done. I'm so over it. I get angry. I'm angry. And you know what? Maybe some of this stuff I've said like over and over, or maybe some of the stuff doesn't make sense. But these are my thoughts, and I'm angry and I'm tired, and I just wanted to do this video because I'm just so frustrated with it. I'm so frustrated. But I have a couple more coming. But anyway, I do wish. I obviously hope the appeal gets rejected. But. And I also heard that she was like starting a GoFundMe page for her fans to help her pay. Like, that's just sick. That is just sick. Like, whatever, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, and I do hope that there's a petition or whatever for the UK case for the verdict to be overturned. I don't know how well that's gonna go. I don't know what the situation is on that, but crossing fingers that it gets overturned for Johnny's sake. Yay! But anyway, I will catch up with you guys later. Have a wonderful night. That's all I have to say. Love you. Bye. Sorry, one final thing before this video officially closes. Now I'm just about to upload, but I wanted to say this one last thing before I put this together. Because I forgot two things. During her opening, I'm talking about Elaine, during her opening and close, I don't know if she said it in closing, but definitely her opening, when she mentioned about the photos and how like they were doctored and or how she doesn't know how to apply the makeup and all, like how to cover her face and how to set filters. Are you freaking kidding me? You actually, I understand you need to believe your client, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but you honestly 100% telling me that you believe that your client, a woman at the time, late 20s, early 30s, did not know how, like a millennial, I guess, yeah, millennial, did not know how to filter her fucking face? Are you kidding me with that? Like, you actually believe she doesn't know how to do that? And then when she says that she didn't know anything about the leak for TMZ, and that she didn't know how to leak stuff, and then she, on cross, she tells Camille, you know what, if I wanted to leak it, I have so much more. I could have done it so much more effectively, and da-da-da-da. And then Camille's like, I thought you didn't know how to leak stuff. She goes, I don't. You're telling me that a celebrity with resources and money and connections does not know how or would not know how to leak information? Does she really expect the jury of her peers, so people that are of the same age or a little bit younger, a little bit older, would believe that she doesn't know how to leak information? That's a load of crap. So you're honestly, do you really believe that, Elaine? Like, really, do you honestly 100% believe that? And you don't think that's even, just even that's enough to fucking sway a jury? Like, it's so ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. Anyway, those are only two last things I wanted to say. And that sounds really petty. It might sound really petty for me to say that stuff, but I just had to say it because it irritated me, and I didn't want to do another video on it, so it's just really irritating me. Tell me she doesn't know how to filter her face, and also those two photographs, the same ones, hair's in the exact same spot, and also those two different photographs of the same photographs of two different locations or different occasions of the wine spilled on the floor. And she says, well, did you expect me to remember when I took that photo and blah, 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 blah. After 5 years, it really doesn't work that way. It's like after I've lived through this shit for 5 years, it doesn't work that way. Girl, you presented the evidence to your lawyers. They wanted to know the evidence and the story. You give them the evidence and the story. Your story. Not the story, not the truth, your story. What? Okay, that's it. And then that's it. We're done. Okay.